When you turn on the tap, you expect clean, safe drinking water to come out of the faucet, right? And that's the promise given by Houston city officials.
Well, the state mandates tests to prove it to you, but an ABC 13 investigation uncovered allegations that some of those tests simply were not true, and that an official in the water department told city water testers to report chlorine results in certain parts that were not accurate. Ted Oberg is here to explain why those chlorine tests matter.
Chlorine is added to the water to kill bacteria in pipes and water lines. Without it, that bacteria could make you sick. The state requires the city to check water safety levels all over Houston to ensure it's safe to drink. But a former city employee alleges he and his colleagues were told to falsify samples to make it look like your water was safe when it was testing below state standards for chlorine. When you turn the water faucet on, you assume the water is safe and clean. And City of Houston employees like this guy, they're supposed to make sure of it.
I was being paid to make sure that the citizens of Houston had clear and safe water to drink.
He's a former City of Houston employee with more than 20 years on the job testing your drinking water. He's asked us to hide his identity for fear of retaliation from the City of Houston. He was suspended in May 2018, later fired, after a city investigation concluded he knew city water testers were falsifying data and failed to report it to upper management. To meet state minimums, there needs to be at least 0.5 milligrams per liter of chlorine in the water. Anything below that, according to the EPA and the state of Texas, it's unsafe. You took this job really seriously.
I sure did.
This longtime city employee says a few months before he was suspended, he and 3 other city water testers were at a meeting with their boss's boss. He would later tell city and state investigators about that meeting.
He said, don't pick up the samples that are below standard.
According to the employee, testers skipped testing in places where chlorine levels were low. He says in parts of Houston which were outside his territory. The former employee also alleges testers were told to falsely write down that bad samples passed the state minimum, 0.5, even if the levels came in below that.
And one of my coworkers said, what do you want me to put down as residuals since there's still no residual out there? And he said, put a 0.5.
We looked at a year's worth of testing forms the city turned over as part of a records request. For one tester, there's a noticeable spike in tests that came in right at 0.5 in September. Previous months show those 0.5s throughout the year, but then a jump. We explained all the allegations by the former employee to Dr. Deborah Rodriguez, a civil and chemical engineer at the University of Houston.
Yeah, that's really scary, I would say. Yeah, concerning.
She explains the city is testing to make sure bacteria can't grow in city pipes and get to your faucet. That's why that level of 0.5 is so crucial. Without it, what comes out of my tap?
Microbes? Microbes that can make you sick.
Emails show an anonymous city employee called the TCEQ in September 2017 to report the alleged ruse. Telling the TCEQ city water testers were told to ignore areas with no chlorine and instead go to areas with chlorine and record those numbers. After learning about the anonymous tip, the city opened its own investigation, concluding the city's drinking water was safe, but that 3 other water samplers falsified data, skipped taking samples from places with known low chlorine levels, and failed to tell upper management. In doing so, the city said the testers potentially exposed the greater Houston area to hazardous drinking water. That's when the city suspended 4 testers, including this man, later firing them. Why do you think they really fired you?
Why? To use us, me and my coworkers, as scapegoats.
You feel like a scapegoat?
I feel like one.
None of the people now in charge of the water system are accused of being involved in the alleged scheme. We asked them for an interview. The city's public works department agreed, but as they were preparing for our interview, they told us the mayor's office intervened and shut the interview down. Instead, we got a statement that reads in part, Houston's water supply is and has consistently been safe, and that even though testing may have been misreported in parts of Houston, the city sent samples to a lab to check for bacteria and everything's fine. The city says it's put in place new checks to monitor any irregularities from data in the field.
What does the city owe the people that drink its water?
An explanation to see why they don't have no chlorine out there.
At a hearing where testers challenged their dismissal, a representative for the city denied the testers were told not to pick up bad samples and put down 0.5 when samples came in low for chlorine. The TCEQ has an ongoing investigation into the city and wouldn't comment for our story. You can explore more about all of this right now at abc13.com/TED to see more of what we found in our investigation. Ted Oberg, ABC 13 Eyewitness News.